And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Welcome to Odd Reality Radio, the show designed to generate thought through entertainment. Join us as we explore the strange and unexplained, the unanswered and the unbelievable on Odd Reality Radio.
An error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
Welcome to Odd Reality Radio. I'm Ty West.
And I'm Joshua Ray.
And coming up on today's show, we dig deep and discuss D.U.M.B bases and the mysteries at Dulce.
D.U.M.B bases. Silly old bases. No, they're deep underground military bases.
So I admit, when you said D.U.M.B base in the Centralia episode, I honestly thought that you were referring to it as a negative thing, or possibly even as a dumb thing,
like
something that's ridiculous. Base. Yeah, some dinky piece of shit. And so I honestly, just goes to show, this show is about me learning as much as it is about teaching somebody else. But after, educating myself, if you will, on these topics, I've learned that there's a lot more to it. Like you said, it's a deep underground military base. And some people have said that we've got D.U.M.B bases here in Utah, one of them possibly being linked or tied to the Dugway range and its supposed underground runway of its own.
I would think that, I believe that we do. Yeah, of course. I mean, if we're going to talk about home, we have stories from Crossroads, the Crossroads Mall. The reason that was named Crossroads is they were digging up that road and found another road underneath that they didn't know of. And so they're like, what the heck? And that's when they discovered the underground caverns and tunnels here that had already existed.
See, I've heard about the caverns. I didn't know that's why they were named Crossroads. That's interesting.
That's why it was named Crossroads, because there was a crossroad that went underneath the road, and nobody knew about it. It was just an interesting, cool name. And then we got Crossroads Mall, and we got anyway. So, and then I remember going there in high school. Do you remember Crossroads Mall?
Yeah.
Do you remember the underground? It wasn't really underground, but it felt kind of like a dungeon, the food court. You'd go all the way downstairs, and it was this really kind of dark, and it was all red brick. It was just like kind of like a subway almost, is what it felt like to me, even though I've never been in one.
Right.
So anyways, my friend, he was like one of the wealthy East High kids, and his parents owned a little pizza joint in that mall.
Yeah.
And he worked there, and he told me that there was a crate in the back, like a grate, on the floor. You could peel it up and have access to these underground tunnels, right? And there's even stories in the news saying that people just disappeared, and there's speculation that they entered the underground through these the mall entrances,
these access points.
And that's one of the reasons I believe they tore down that mall and started and renovated it, is because they had too many people who knew about those entrances, like my friend in high school who worked at the pizza joint because his parents owned it, And so I never actually got to see the grate, sadly, but the stories of people who have gone missing. And then there's also an LDS person, because they have a well-known underground in the community, because the prophet, he travels from here to there, all underground. So nobody's really surprised around here when you talk about underground. They're just thinking it's like, oh, that's just the prophet's two little tunnels that go just to his office and to his fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it's AB.
So, but they think it's a simple little design underground. And so that's why nobody questions it, nobody looks, nobody even cares. Because you can tell them there's an underground, they I know. But, so these were used, and people of the church have access to certain levels of these underground facilities, and usually they're not privy to what's actually going on. Well, the story is this one LDS guy decides maybe he was bored of watching the stairs and decided to go for a walk, and he stumbled across what he claimed to be was like a subway system underneath the ground and roadways that you could drive semis through. And then he claims to have encountered what we would refer to as a reptilian.
Okay.
A lizard. Like, it's Superman or Spider-Man's one of his nemesis.
Right.
You know, it's probably one of those guys. They're upright and whatever. So he encounters this, and he gets the fuck out of there, and apparently wrote a story about it. And I don't know what happened to the guy. I don't even remember his name. I read it so long ago, and I kind of just pushed it under the rug. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of some crazy story. Then you start getting into this underground, and Darren Cooey is going by the sideline.
The underground facilities, they aren't anything new. And, you know, I've heard a story of the Caves of Malta, which is on the island of Malta. And essentially what they did is they somehow found this cavern through some sort of construction, and it was actually a series of tunnels and caverns and things that went hundreds of feet deep or so. And one of the things that they say is that they had some sort of PA system built into the rock where this spiritual leader, or, you know, the elite...
PA system? Like, what do you mean, like a PA system?
Okay, well, let me explain. The rocks would basically... The main rock that they would use for the PA or the microphone, so to speak, was a little opening that was a little bit bigger than your mouth. And essentially, you'd just go and you'd put your mouth in this hole. And when you talked, they found out after they'd excavated this place a little bit better that they had drilled a series of tunnels, small tunnels throughout this cave system.
Like pipes kind of through the rocks.
Essentially just these little pipes which acted as acoustic amplifiers, and it was just a PA system, an ancient
ingenious for sure.
PA system. Well, as ingenious as it was also kind of morbid what they used it for. They found, I think it was 10 or 20,000 bones, remnants of bones in one small chamber. And essentially what they said the conclusion that they came up with is that they say that these people would, or, you know, these elites would sacrifice these people as the voice of God. They used this PA system to manipulate the minds of these people
so that
as the voice of God.
Be sacrifices.
Exactly. I mean, hell, like
genius.
They were basically the little aliens in Toy Story waiting for the claw.
That's a good analogy. Oh, yay! Except for they don't get to go home with a kid who plays with them,
blows them up or whatever. Yeah.
Well, that was really he died too. So
that's, I guess that's true.
But where was that located?
The Caves of Malta on the island of Malta. And you can look it up. I want to do a whole episode on that one alone because...
I'm just kind of trying to figure what kind of people like were there at the time, but I don't...
Well, allegedly, some lady went into this researching it in, I think it was the 20s. I want to say the 20s. Now, what's weird about that is that she went in, saw these people in robes from a distance away, and they basically looked at her and they held their hands up just straight out, palm out towards her, and she felt this gust of wind and this urgency. I've got to get the fuck out of here.
They used the Force on her.
Essentially, yeah, they used the Force, which is strange, but it makes some sense.
George Lucas has got some homies, man, with some knowledge, dude. I'm telling you.
He didn't do that alone. That's for damn sure. And so she ended up not being okay after this. I think it messed with her head or whatever. And that's just one of many stories of things that happened. There's a story in this same caves of a group of, I want to say, like 30 school kids that went on a field trip in, I think it was the 60s or 70s or whatever, and that's the reason that they closed it down. They shut it all down and cemented it all up because these kids went missing with their teacher. All of them.
Holy shit. It just disappeared.
Yeah, they went for a field trip and never came back.
Something's occupying that area.
Well,
that's what I would assume.
Isn't there another one? You mentioned
just walked
something
in the
about.
Door.
Oh, I hope not.
I hope not too, but it sure sounds.
It does.
That's where my mind goes.
Well, and that's
they died.
Unfortunately the most likely explanation.
I wonder how vast it was, if they could have just simply gotten lost. But
I don't know.
Who knows?
We're talking 30 people. How do you lose 30 people? That's like losing a
blind or following
Boeing 777.
Yeah. Well,
MH370 happened. But, dude, you mentioned something about another one that was from, 1,000 or a couple thousand years ago?
They speculate thousands of years old, but apparently it's really difficult to carbon date rock.
That makes sense.
And unfortunately, I guess there wasn't anything found in the cave system or really underground city. Whoever got there first must have taken whatever was there out. When these people who had found it in 1963.
Smithsonian.
And Darren Cooey. Yeah, exactly. They get all the good stuff. They got all the flying stuff they house the UFOs and stuff in some facility that they're not showing here. They bricked up and shit. I don't know. But it's in Darren Cooey, Turkey. And in 1963, a cave wall was opened that revealed a passageway to an underground city. They claimed it was thousands of years old and more than 280 feet deep, with 13 stories. The number of rooms found could house over 20,000 people. They had storerooms. They had wine presses. They even had stables for livestock. They had a series of holes, air shafts, and they've counted about 15,000 of these shafts that go all the way down to these rooms or whatever to supply air.
Well, with a cave system like that, you're going to need fresh air. You're going to need oxygen.
Of course, yeah, but it's just crazy the number of,
You're going to need some sort of source for the surface.
280 feet. So that was, how did they get the holes, drill the holes to the
I don't know. Well, if it's thousands of years old, what kind of machinery are they using?
I don't know.
Because it sure as hell isn't a common drill press.
Really, really, really tall trees with sticks. Just I don't really know, dude.
They just had a lot of them, huh?
I would, and the History Channel guy with the really wild hair. He's really awesome.
Tsoukalos.
Yeah, he's
Giorgio.
That guy. Yeah. He was obviously speculating that there was alien help, and I can't say either way. Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was any bones or anything found, but what I found that I thought was really cool was they had a security system of sorts. They had this 1,000-pound door on like a roller, or it rolled or something. Really? I don't know, but it could only be, and it could be used by a single person, but it could only be used from one side. It could only be leveraged from the inside. Once you close it, there was no way to leverage it or pry this thing open. It was ingenious design, and I thought that was
that's incredible. It's almost what you'd see in a damn video game, a God of War or something. This giant rock circle, this perfect circle that one man can move.
It's really what it looked like from the picture. It just looked like a big circle rock that it would roll into place or something.
Interesting.
Like if you didn't step on the floor just right, it would roll in place and you're fucked. Nope, no golden chalice for you, son.
We'll try to do what we can to link a copy of that picture on the website and in the show notes as well. But moving to a little bit more of a modern time, we found out that there's something rather peculiar going on at the Denver International Airport, which is just next door. And I wasn't able to, I didn't spend enough time, obviously, on it, but you found some information that was really interesting.
I found some weird stuff, some creepy stuff. Obviously, lots of people have heard about the murals, and for those who haven't, you should definitely Google them, check them out, see for yourself what you think they depict.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to pretend to know, but they're creepy. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
caskets, dead bodies, women holding dead babies.
They fit, do they?
No, it's not something you'd really want to see at an airport. You're like, all this death, and it's just crazy. And swords and war, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's out of place.
It's symbolism that really, that's a whole nother show. And so what I did find was that as far as underground that I could come up with is that they excavated a massive hole for them to build these 5 buildings up to 150 feet tall. And so they were built in this large hole, and then claimed that they built it in the wrong spot. Oops, blunder, just cover it up with dirt and we'll call it good. Well, everybody knows that they're still there. Obviously, they didn't just leave them there. They built them for a reason. And the people who claim to have worked there, or workers, they claim to have seen crazy things. Like the amount of space, the square footage, I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. But it says that it could house up to 20,000 people in the square footage. And this is just where they had these scary looking cages with like razor wire facing inward, like maybe like 6x6 like cages. This is all hearsay from workers who claimed to work there, and they didn't want to speak out, probably because if I saw something like that looked like it was like a housing facility for slaves or something, I probably wouldn't want to say anything either. It would probably scare the fuck out of me. Just imagine going down into the ground super deep, feeling super vulnerable, and then seeing all these scary fucking cages and shit. Not to mention the murals that are talking about all this weird doom and gloom.
Yeah.
And then you have most people, New World Order, blah, 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 bullshit. They don't know much about it, or they don't believe in it. But at the Denver airport, there's a Mason monument that sits in what they call the Great Hall. And the Great Hall is where Masons meet in their, what they call Great Halls, where they all have their meetings. And then, the Denver airport has a Great Hall that has a monument that's got a big, compass and square, and, the obvious Masons, granite,
Yeah.
And on it, it says New World Airport Commission. I don't know what that is. I don't know what New World Airport Commission is. Somebody probably will, and I just look stupid because I just, New World's a part of the word.
Well, no.
But they also have other things like in the ground. So they would have Mason symbolism that's in the granite. It's just these little pictures that you barely even notice if you're walking over them.
Really?
What is it for? Who knows? But as far as the underground, as far as I can tell, they can hold up to 20,000 people underground, and that military people have been seen going into these underground tunnels and all these,
these accidental buildings.
These accidental buildings, and then never returning.
Oh, really?
They just never come back either that way. But the people who work the airport, the regular schmoes that, work the burger joint or whatever, who knows? They don't ever see them come back. Maybe their shift ends, and by the time these people are finished, who knows? But they make it seem as though they go down there and never come back.
Well, with a facility like that, either there's two things that come to mind for me. One of them is you've got some of these people are going to be experimented on or detained, held, like you said, captive in the cages, or some of these people are living in these facilities.
I really think that this Denver airport one is better left for the Montauk and Project Philadelphia, because then you can tie in all the symbolism and really make a good story out of it. But
yeah,
I'm having a hard time because without all that, it's kind of dull because I don't really have any real what's going on underground. There's no labs, there's no facilities.
Well, the fact that they have,
as far as we know,
5 buildings that facilitate up to 20,000 people, that's something that's strange to say that was an accident. I mean, who the fuck makes accidents like that? You don't get to the end of a goddamn project and say, whoops, let's cover it.
Wrong spot, cover it up. Nothing's there now.
Wrong spot? Are you guys...
Wrong spot.
No.
And the facility itself was way over budget. I can't remember.
The airport or the airport. Buildings?
No, the airport itself, because I can't remember the name of the other airport that was originally in place, but most of the people there was like, why do we need another airport? This one functions fine, right? And so they closed this airport and obviously built the other one, the new one, and it's way out on the outskirts of Denver, and they had to actually make a freeway to drive out there because there was nothing else out there. It's just they just put the freeway out there.
I think I remember hearing about that. There was some confrontation between residents that didn't see a point in making another airport for unknown reasons. Really,
the amount of land they also grabbed was way more than any airport has ever required. And so they bragged that they could add another terminal and probably 7 or 8 more runways. Who knows? But I personally think they did it so they could have new construction built from the ground up, have all the underground facilities, built, and then nobody really knows because it's so far out there. Nobody's going there except for the construction workers. Nobody's driving by it on a daily basis. And then the way that they had the construction work done, it's typical black project type construction. It's all what's the word I'm looking for? Compartmentalized.
Right.
So you'd have one contractor come in and build a certain portion of this building, and then another contractor would come in and they'd fire those.
Nobody gets too familiar with anything.
Nothing. So they'd finish a little project, they'd get fired, and some other contractor would come in. That's what put the thing way over budget, like 3 times the amount. It was like $1.8 billion originally, and it turned out to be $4-point-something billion.
Of course.
After the fact. So the top layer would be your 1.8. That was what was budgeted for it, right? The top. That makes sense. There's 1.8 billion roughly around the top.
Yeah.
Where's the other 3? Where's the other 3 billion? So if you can build this with 1.8, what can you do underground with 3?
Well, with just 1, we built 5 buildings on accident.
So it was the accident. So that cost $1 billion.
What about the replacement buildings? Where the fuck are those?
Yeah,
where the fuck are the 5?
I didn't really look. I was like, these ones.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering. That's something that's interesting that we should look into, or one of our listeners should help us out with.
They probably decided they didn't need them after they buried them. They're like, oh well, we thought about we might use them, and well, they were in the wrong spot. Fuck them. We're not.
We've got room. We've got room. We have plenty of land here.
Plenty of space, so we don't need to worry. They have gargoyles. They have sitting in suitcases. Like it's this gargoyle that's up high where a gargoyle would be in the hallway of, I don't know which one, I've never been there, but it's sitting in a suitcase and it's supposed to ward off evil suitcase spirits apparently. And the Denver airport is the most superstitious airport I've ever heard of. So, and it's, they say, this is their words, it's the size of a 5-year-old child. You really need to, you say it in the creepiest fucking ways already.
Yeah.
It's like, so you got a 5-year-old child in the suitcase. Is that what you're telling me? That's typical around here? I don't know, but
it goes with the murals.
The murals that they, the murals alone are creepy as fuck, and it's like you don't ever say they're cute or pretty or anything like that. Don't put that out there. But the horse that they have, what kind of horse is it? I can't remember, but they have this evil, demonic fucking horse that's up on a pedestal on the outside of the Denver airport. It's this blue horse, and it's reared up, it's massive, and it's got red eyes, glowing fucking red eyes, and that's also to ward off evil spirits. A good thing to have in an airport, eh? That's their words, again. Seriously. And they originally wanted laser beams coming out of the fucking horse's eyes, but they decided to go with like LEDs because they were more visible, so everybody could see the red glowing eyes of this horse. One of the apocalyptic horses, I'm sure.
They're within proximity of the Broncos, so maybe they're just trying to pass it off as some half-assed mascot.
You know what? I never even thought about that, to be honest. That's the simplest, silly. That's what the airport should have said. Duh. Have you ever heard of the Broncos?
No shit.
They would have been able to get away with that easily.
We wouldn't even heard about it.
Well, if you look at the thing, if you've ever seen a picture of it, you don't think Bronco.
Really?
No.
Dude,
it's a blue demonic horse with.
I'll indulge as soon as I get a chance. But Denver isn't the only place. I found a map that basically just outlines probably 60 different underground bases, linked underground bases in I'd say almost the 3/4 of the United States, from, say, Oklahoma over to the West Coast to California. And there's all kinds of stuff, including one that most people that are interested in ufology and that would know as Dulce.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you were talking about the amount of bases, Philip Schneider, the infamous
Dulce,
alien human wars guy.
Yeah.
Well, he says that there are this is a 96, round about 96, so we're talking 18 years ago.
Yeah.
149 underground bases and 1,477 in underground worldwide.
Really?
So he's also saying that this is a worldwide collaboration of sorts, or maybe he just knows of others. I don't know, but he claimed to have helped build 9 underground facilities at Area 51, ranging in size up to 4.25 miles cubic, I guess. It's massive. And 1 mile deep. So he helped work on 9 of them. He was a geologist and an engineer.
Yeah.
So he has the credibility, he has the background, and he also died shortly after coming out with this kind of knowledge.
Well, he was doing a tour basically to share his story, right? He was doing a nationwide tour, and supposedly he was writing a book too that never got released.
I don't know really what he was doing, to be honest. I just listened to what he had to say on a couple of the videos that I watched, and I believe the guy. The story of his death is fishy.
Well, yeah, wasn't it a really strange? I mean, it appeared to be like he had been tortured, but he had a piano wire around his neck.
Well, the story I heard was, and there's probably multiples of them, originally ruled a stroke, but then he has, it's like one of those rubber
surgical tubing.
Surgical
That's
tubing
right. That's what it was.
That he had double knotted around his neck, and the double knotting was in the back. How they decided stroke ever, with a tube tied around your neck is beyond me.
Well, it sounds like he was suicided.
Exactly. And that's typical, and that's usually when somebody's saying something that the government don't want him to talk about.
That's right.
He worked on the Black Project underground bases at Area 51, S4, and Los Alamos.
That's right, and he had credentials.
He co-invented methods in shape-charged explosives. So he was like really in depth with how they were building these things, and digging them out or whatever.
So he wasn't an idiot.
No, he was talking about metals. You listen to him; he was definitely educated. I'm not a geologist,
mentioned
but
something about metals from out of this world, didn't he?
Yeah, he was talking about making metals in the outer space because of the vacuum, and I'm not going to pretend to understand what he's talking about, but apparently making metals and certain types of metals are more easily and affordable if you build them out in space. I don't know, dude.
Really?
Probably not affordable, but more easy to create these high...
well, it would make sense that the
tech alloys or whatever.
Yeah, the world is different the minute you get out of our...
I wish I understood
all that,
how it would help, to make stuff, and I'm just that's not my brain, so I can't go there.
Right. Well, not yet. We're gonna get there soon. Well, and his wife, or his ex-wife, I should say, because he got
Cynthia Dreyer.
Right, and he married her on this tour, on his storytelling tour, and something that was really interesting that I found out, and it's kind of silly just because of what it is, but she says that the body that she was shown in the autopsy was not Phil. There's no way it could have been Phil, due to the strange way that his penis was normal. Yeah, because according to her, he had surgeries previously when he was a little younger due to some problems with his penis, and so essentially the body that she was shown couldn't have been Phil because he had completely normal genitalia and other things didn't coincide with what she remembered.
I wonder how close of a fucking match would it had to be, like a duplicate.
Yeah.
How could you only be able to identify a different person, if he didn't have a twin, by his junk? How is that the only, I'm saying, so if he really was, they faked his death or whatever, they would have to have a perfect copy, like his face, his scars, his fingers missing.
What lends to that is, and as strange as, did you ever hear about that half cow, half human hybrid thing that they found? They found a calf body with a human face. And there's fucking pictures of it, dude. This is one thing that, it's the reason that UFO Hunters, the TV show, got canceled.
Oh, really?
And
it was out at Dulce.
They aired that, and that is where they found it, near Dulce.
I knew that. I asked, somebody told me they got canceled for Dulce. I just didn't know what it was.
That's what it was.
Huh.
They basically shared the story of
dug too deep.
He essentially found this fucked up half cow, half human thing, and you know what's strange about that is that in law, they essentially made up this law right after that there is no human and animal hybrid testing, that we can't do it. Right after that, they find this thing.
Oh,
how the hell does that happen?
That's when they decided we're not doing that anymore.
They put it into law right after they found this.
But this was all just pure coincidence that the cow had a human face. Sure.
It's all coincidence.
And so they were like, well, just in future reference.
Well, we're all familiar with bestiality. Unfortunately, we live in a society where fucking animals happens. And, sometimes who's to say that it doesn't actually take and we have a half cow, half human? It's simpler than we thought. It's not actually genetic testing. It's just bestiality. Just ho-hum Joe Farmer fucking his cows.
You hear about sheep fuckers and stuff. So, it's not outside of the realm of possibility.
No, but it's so fucking unlikely that the strangeness, it's just...
I'm with you.
Man, this Dulce story, his dad was involved with what you mentioned earlier with the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project.
I don't remember getting to the underground firefight.
We didn't.
And that's one of Phil Schneider's big claims, and that's what his wife, from what I found, aside from what you've told me, she thought that he was murdered for revealing UFOs and aliens to the world. And his story is that they were building Dulce base.
Yeah.
And so they had bored these 4 holes, I imagine it like 4 corner holes or something to this base. I don't know. I'm just in my imagination. And that once they get down to a certain depth, they have to go down and do an analyzation of what type of material they have so they can create or decide which charge they're going to use, which type of explosive for that particular material.
Or density, yeah.
And so that was part of his job, to analyze and, I guess, determine what to use. Well, when he went down there, he was startled and claims that he saw several aliens, or what he claimed to be aliens.
Right.
And he apparently had a sidearm, and I remember Walter PP7 or some shit like that. Maybe I don't remember. But so he shot, and he claims he killed 2 of them. And at the time, there was other people, I guess, coming down, military personnel, Green Berets, and whatever he was claiming. And at this time, when they were coming down, this alien shot a beam of light, and I think he says it came like right out of his chest.
Yeah, the middle of his chest is what I heard too.
And I guess in response to that, he put his hand up to protect himself, and it took off his 2 fingers, his index and his hello finger. And and so and then it went straight through that and into his chest, leaving this gnarly scar, obviously 2 fingers missing. Pretty substantial proof that something hit him. Well, whether that, I believe his story, honestly.
There's videos of him telling the story that you can find, and we'll link those again in the show notes as well. But
that was really the beginning of, well, for him, it was the beginning. He I guess, didn't really know of the alien
right, he was just a contractor.
Presence. So when he found that, I guess he continued to work with him. I don't know. Well, no, maybe he didn't. I think he was too ill and he ended up not working anymore or something. I can't remember. I'm sorry, but they accidentally obviously found an alien base in Dulce that had been there long before they were building their base. And the story goes on from there as far as the Andrew Castillo story, the head security guard at Dulce.
Right.
I can't say that I did the most diligent homework on him, but I liked the story, so I was
absolutely.
Let's I don't know. I trust Phil Schneider, and I believe that his story is true. I don't know if Edward Castillo was ever proven to work there at Dulce, but listening to his stories and the answers that he provides, either he has a amazing imagination, or he did really experience some of this stuff, because he's talking about he originally thought that he was in a facility, like a lab, where they had basically some sort of medicine for crazy people or insane people. I don't know the exact condition that they were supposedly having. Some
mental disorder.
Yeah, some sort of mental disorder, and they would remind you of that constantly, the way he said. Like, all the elevators were like, oh, we're saving the world.
Some sort of subliminal message.
Yeah, it was just kind of like constantly you heard that they were doing mental, and so when some crazy person would be escorted,
quote,
or something,
person.
Quote, crazy person would be escorted across or in front of him or something, and they'd say, I've been kidnapped, and then blah blah blah, and he'd just be like, oh, they're all fucking crazy, they all say that.
Yep.
And so he'd never thought anything of it. Apparently, he decided to ask a cop friend of his, because this one guy really just bugged him. He's like, maybe he's fucking missing. Maybe he really is kidnapped. I don't know. So he asks his cop friend. Cop friend looks him up. Yeah, he's missing. He's a missing guy. And then this Edward Castillo, if that's a real name at all, develops a conscience, And he said, oh,
right.
Shit, am I a criminal? What am I participating in this stuff? What, should I tell the people? So apparently he decides to tell us about what's going on in this space.
Yeah.
But obviously he wasn't as naive as it seems, because he talks about contact with Draco, alien, that all intermingled with humans, and, so I don't know if he just thought that part was all innocent and all the underground alien stuff was I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird that you could have like that kind of disbelief and think that you're doing Jesus's work when you're working right above lizard people.
Yeah.
So
good point.
I don't know exactly how credible the guy is, but the story is interesting, and that the levels of Dulce is like, according to him, the first level was security communications, and the second level was human staff housing. Third level, execs and labs. I guess that's executives.
Yeah.
I know. And fourth level, mind control experiments. Fifth level, alien housing. Sixth level, genetic experiments. And then seventh level, cryogenic storage. And then there were apparently levels below that none of the laboratory people were privy to, and I think that was like alien. Maybe that's where they lived. I don't know.
Right.
And apparently the aliens and people couldn't communicate with each other. Only on certain levels or certain places they could have communication, but all the other time they couldn't communicate.
Interesting.
I don't know. There's probably some reason,
Well, with bases this size, I think it's good for us to point out what kind of machinery and what size of machine it takes to actually bore a tunnel that a semi or two fucking semis can drive down. Well,
it's not hard to imagine. All you gotta do is Google tunnel boring machines and
Absolutely.
Look at the massive pictures of these machines where there's 20, 30 guys standing in front of it, and they're not even all the way to the end, of the boring machine. So like 20 people wide in front of the tip.
Now, these things look like I saw a cutaway, just this drawing, and it looks like this mechanical tremor from the movie Tremors, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. And what it does is, I found out that the front end of the machine crushes and heats up the rock into a molten phase or stage, and then it basically cools it down throughout the back half of the machine, turning it to a type of rock glass.
It's RAND Corporation. And so you can look it up and see their patents for this particular machine. It's RAND, R-A-N-D.
Okay.
Corporation tunneling machine, and that would make or create a glass-like surface.
Yeah.
And I didn't really write down like the what the tip was, because it was like all this,
right.
Special
it's
wording.
all got to be different.
But basically,
metals and
it was glass-like surface that would be displaced by extremely, extremely hot drilling tip, right? Probably some nuclear reactor, I don't know. And then it would melt the rock, and then the pressure of the machine pushing forward would displace it to the sides, and then it would cool as the machine would pass it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how, and it would just leave, you would have no debris left over. You would just push a hole right through it, and that would probably solidify as one hard glass-like surface.
Yeah.
And probably reinforce the tunnel as well, And I don't know but the patent is there. And
oh, absolutely. Well,
I believe that they use
photo
stuff
documentation
like that.
of, like you said, people in front of these fucking things in the middle of these tunnels.
And those are insane, just the size of them. And Phil Schneider claimed, and this was in 96, so you're talking 20 years tech old, and 7 miles a day. 7 miles a day underground with these machines, and that's 20 years old. That's like, imagine your computer.
Yeah.
And so he also claimed that the military, their technology, you can't even say it's times. How do you fucking word that? How did you word it? By 44. 44 times a year is how much their technology is advanced.
Right.
And so imagine if 44 times a year from
96
to now, I'm pretty sure they're cruising through a couple 100 miles a day.
Well, and
that would be my opinion.
Like you said earlier. Well, Phil says that in '96 there was 149 bases. Well, if there's that many going on, there's more than one fucking machine tackling this. It'd be interesting to find out how many machines there are, if there's any way to find that out.
It would be. I mean, as far as the
we're talking the RAND, the big RAND machines. I would love to find out how many we have.
If I doubt we'd even. Yeah, I bet the technology is so that we wouldn't understand it, and general public would be like, well, if you could do that, then how come we can't do this with that power?
True.
It's probably one of those things that it's like, if you could superheat rock and turn it into lava and place it as glass,
really.
What else can we do?
I was thinking about that. Now, what kind of fucking heat do you need to melt rocks?
Seriously, what kind of energy are you using to produce that heat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
Could that run maybe a city or two? What the fuck are you using?
No kidding. Well, it could run underground cities.
Apparently, I mean,
probably does.
And that's another thing is he talks about the Andrew Castillo about magnetics being their main way of energizing or propelling or doing anything is all magnetics. And the elevator just floated basically barely off the shell, I guess, that it would go in and or the barrel,
guide or whatever,
the barrel of some sort. Thinking about a bullet, it's a bullet. It doesn't touch the sides of the barrel. It just And the mag-lev train, so they're magnetically levitated and then vacuumed. Like your banks.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was thinking of right as you said that. So
it's not outside of the imagination. It's pretty. And I kind of think if you could levitate something and create a suction, and I was just thinking about it, sleeping one day, I was like, like say if you had a massive amount of water, a big huge tube, right, and it all drained down that tube, and it was a mile long, that this water would just fall. Could you create enough force to move a train by that pressure, blowing that, the air would blow that, the water would blow the air, and it's a simple, stupid idea. Like, I'm sure they're not using it. Like, they would just pour this water and do all that. But I was just like, I'd like to try that. But I don't know how to magnetically levitate anything. So when I get to there,
then we're going to do this
I'm going to try the water
test.
Vacuum tunnel thing.
Well, that'll be season 2.
Yeah. We're going to be Mythbusters after that.
Yeah, fucking A. Have our own TV show. And tour bus.
Tour bus, oh yeah. So the Thomas Edwin Castillo story is really fun. Talks about all kinds of different places. Talks about Utah and a lot of the places where they have entrances in Wyoming, Idaho. It gives great detail, and a lot of people that live in these places, they'll probably think they'll have that aha moment, like, oh, that little area where nobody goes because it's just a mining area or something. Well, he talks about using mining as a way to
just a decoy
to claim that it's just mining. And, you know, when I worked for that company, when I worked delivering equipment to mines, I never even thought about it, dude. Never even dawned on me that maybe this is part of an underground facility, and that's why all the debris is just mountains high. You know, it's like...
Well, in certain things, you've got to think, our technology, our energy technologies, our coal is it's so old-fashioned. I mean, we've got so many alternatives that really... How many more fucking coal bases, or coal mines, I should say, do we need? Well, how many aren't really coal mines? That's a good point. I never even thought about that as well.
Yeah, and just crazy stuff. It's like so in your face, and you don't even think about it. Like, I was thinking about this, like EG&G. That would be the perfect place to have an entrance. Why? They dispose of biochemical fucking warfare. Nobody wants to go anywhere near that place in case something happens.
Yep.
They don't want to be nowhere near that. And you're on radar or, you know, radiation and all these scary signs going up there. Whatever, you know, and it's genius. It's really fucking genius to be like, oh, just build it there. No, there's a radio waste fucking sign or whatever, you know, if they won't go anywhere near there, bro.
Yeah.
No, you don't even need to lock it. It's like, yeah, dude.
Just leave the screen door open so the bugs don't get in.
Just make sure you polish the sign so it gets good reflection. Everything's good. Like, seriously, it's so genius. And it's so simple.
Yeah.
You know? It just plays on the way we react to certain things.
Absolutely, it does. It plays on our...
Because nobody wants to go look at a fucking mine. Kennecott's been over there for so long. And now I'm like, what's underneath that?
Yeah.
You know? And... my whole life never thought that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, we've got a video that I'm going to play, and it's of a trucker's story of an underground city. It's just a couple of minutes long, but it's got some really interesting information that I found was pretty relevant for this episode. So I'll play it now.
He thought he had been to every single base in America, right? And then he got contracted to do a truck haul for some top secret stuff. So it was a load where he wasn't even allowed to look inside the load or anything. Like, he had to go drop his truck off like the night before, and then come back the next morning and pick up his truck all loaded up and sealed. And he had all this like documents and stuff. And they told him that he had to go out to a place called Iran, Texas, with 2 A's, right? They said turn off on this turnoff, and it was like 178B. It wasn't even like to a street or anything. He said he was driving. He got to the turnoff. He turned off. And it was just a dirt road going in the desert. So he goes putting down the desert thing. And he gets to a shack, and there's like a shanty town around, and there's those big old like oil things, oil pump things. Yeah, but they aren't pumping or nothing. And he just says he's seen a Jeep. Military Jeep and one guard inside the shack around this like fence. So he goes up, and the guard tells him, stay in your truck, let me see your paperwork, all this stuff. He says, all right, I want you to pull your truck over there, stay inside the cabin. Like, I'm gonna hold on to these papers. He calls, and he says that these 2 Hummers come up from around this sand dune, and they pull over, and they pull into this blind spot. And then a Master Chief comes over, tells him to switch his radio over to a certain channel and to follow the Hummers. And he gives him back his bill of lading, like his slip. He's like, you're going to need this when you get to the dock. So he's following the Hummers, and he's going up this hill, right? And he says he's driving this big rig. He's been driving big rig for 15 years at the time. Driving this big rig, going up the hill, and he sees the top of the hill. And then all of a sudden, he's going down. He doesn't realize that he just, entered something. And the voice comes over the radio, and it tells him to turn on his headlights. So he turns on his headlights, and he said he drove about 3 miles down into doing hatchbacks down into the ground. He said there was an entire underground city in the middle of the desert. And they took him to a dock and had him wait in a room, and he had to give him that last paper, and they took all the stuff off his truck, and then they had him escorted back out. And he said, Mike, I have never in my life seen anything that extravagant. It was literally a city. There was laundromats, there was everything you could think of down there. But I couldn't see much of it because I couldn't leave the loading dock area.
Was there people there?
Yeah. Thousands.
Thousands of people.
He said just military personnel everywhere. And we're talking, he said, there were buildings in there that were 7 stories tall underneath the ground.
Wow.
Hey, that's upsetting.
So, what did you think of the video? Obviously there wasn't a lot to look at, but the audio is really the important thing.
I thought it was really interesting. I think that, I believe it's credible. I think that there's probably facilities like that. I think that the likelihood of private truck driver, kind of situation getting, I don't know if that was if he was like, what do they call those guys? Independent trucker?
Yeah.
So if he was independent, I kind of doubt it. But if he worked for some big corporation, yeah, I would think so.
Well, he's not the first trucker to share a story. And what's strange is that some of these guys, and it's really not that strange. It's almost, predictable, but they end up disappearing.
The only reason I say that they wouldn't have an independent company because they haven't signed all the contracts and all the clause and all this if you say or do or whatever. So the chances of him being an independent driver and getting that contract would be very slim.
That's right. Well, and the guy mentioned that this is a driver who claims he's been to every base known on the surface.
So he works for a corporation of some sort. Which one? Who knows?
Right.
But it's a big one. If he's going to underground bases and apparently regularly.
Have you seen any videos or heard anything about that Missouri underground facility?
I haven't.
That's a strange one. I was watching that just before you got here, and it was Jesse Ventura and his show, the conspiracy theory show or whatever it was that he did for a while. And it was him and a carload of dudes that were driving through this area where they had this series of tunnels dug into the side of this mountain. And they decided to drive into it. I mean, there's no, fences or anything. There's not really a security gate or anything, so they just drove into it.
I'd figure for your game, too.
Exactly. Well, what was weird is, as they're driving through, the fucking thing branches off for miles on every side. And it's like, honestly, what would we need that much for, and what would you be doing other than things that you don't want to be seen?
Yeah, I mean, they have legitimate reasons that make everybody feel comfy, like continuation of government,
That's not making me comfy.
Well, no, but that's what...
But we're a little left of center in that respect.
Yeah. It does make most people comfortable, like, oh, it's just for this, and they can explain it away, and there's nothing creepy or weird about it, and it makes them feel better.
I think that the
nuclear storage facilities. Oh, that makes sense. So it's away from everything. And
I think the general public has been poisoned to believe that this kind of shit is a benefit to them. I think that a lot of people are so tolerant anymore that it's like, I'd rather just keep going with this thing that I've been force-fed forever. I don't care about your reality. It's too dark, or it's too scary, it's too real for me. I'm gonna go play with the unicorns for a while.
Well, I've heard, I've made so many people upset, not intentionally. I've had my friends tell me, they didn't want me to talk because I was making them mad telling them the truth. Telling them and exposing what reality we're living in and just what's going on. And they get mad at me because I'm telling them the world that they live in, and they make it seem like I'm the one doing it. They feel like I'm the one who's making these things happen. I'm like, look, man, the only reason you're getting mad is because, one, you're scared. That's understandable. It's a scary story. And two, you have to change a lot of things about your life now. You have to kind of realize that you're not doing things the right way. You're falling in line with what they want, and it's easy. It's comfortable. It's nice. It's what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
And then you have to change the way you live. So now it's not just truth. it's adjusting to see it, you know. And I don't know how to really explain it, but for some reason it triggers anger in people to.
Well, I think that anger comes from fear, like you said. I think that it's a fear of rejecting. It's that conflict of, I've fucking known this forever, and now you showed me different.
Yeah.
What the hell am I supposed to do with that?
That's
Why,
true.
and I think that we just need to, again, that's part of what Odd Reality Radio is doing, is trying to share the reality in, I guess, an entertaining way. We don't want to be dark and
it's, I don't want everything to be scary. I like to think that you reap what you sow. Right? And look, these guys think they have underground bases and wonderful. Good. You know what sucks about underground bases? They're only good if people don't know where they are. If I know where it's at and I just put my hand over your air hole, get fucked. Okay?
Well, not only that, but you got to think about flooding too.
So I don't want to say it as like doom and gloom, like, look, yeah, they got money, they got technology, and they have, underground facilities apparently. But we have over fucking whelming numbers, and we have a lot more things that are more powerful than I think technology. And I think
absolutely,
that,
I think the human spirit can do a hell of a lot more than we're given credit for as individuals. And the more that we put our minds and hearts together, the more likely we are to make that positive change. And I heard a story, you and I talked a little bit about, there was some speculation that there are these anti-Illuminati groups that are anti-underground bases, and they've gone out, and some people claim that they've destroyed some of them.
I think that, from what I understood, it seemed like almost like disgruntled workers that became a faction working inside. Dude, shit like that sometimes makes me get a tear to my eye when I'm like, oh my God, they got morals, and there's somebody working on my side.
Good.
So, so I like those stories, and there's a guy, Benjamin Fulford, who brings up this a couple of years ago, like 2011, 2010, somewhere around there, and I don't know whether it's true or not, but I liked the story. It made me feel good. So apparently there was one faction of this underground people that are, bent on world domination, New World Order type thing, and they had nuclear weapons and a plan of detonating them on American soil to maybe jumpstart their agenda. I don't know exactly. Yeah. And that they were figured out, their plan was figured out, and the other faction down there basically foiled their plan and detonated these devices in their underground cities. One in, I thought it was
Virginia,
and then the other one
Washington, D.C. We
Colorado.
Yeah, and that was the other one.
And you can also do the, what is it called? The seismic activity, like for volcanoes and stuff. And at the time that this guy reported the event, there was also 2 coinciding minor earthquakes in these areas. So,
interesting.
So the fact is that there's something, maybe this guy's just, maybe he's a meteorologist and he knows when earthquakes are going to happen, and he's like, I got a great story to tell. But I like to choose to believe that he knows that there is a good faction and they're on our side, and so we have people, infiltrating what, they infiltrate. So we're getting back at you, and we'll blow up your shit too, so good luck.
Well, I think that, we do our best to leave every episode on a more positive note, and we'll leave this episode with a video I found featuring a little bit of a speech from Bill Nye, and it's titled "The Joy of Discovery," and that's really what basically that's basically what drives me and encourages me to do more with this show, is the joy of discovery. And he just nails everything, and that tear to your eye feeling. That's what I got when I heard this and watched this video. It was phenomenal. I mean, and again, frequency is something we'll talk about in another episode, but the frequency in this song is another thing that just gotta get you going, man. It makes you feel like I better go out and do something to make a fucking difference, a positive difference, and that's hell, if we do any of that for any of our listeners, then fucking A, we've done our job.
Right, for sure.
Well, on that note, I think we should wrap it up. I'm Ty West.
I'm Joshua Ray.
And don't forget to investigate life through the lens of possibility. Take care.
Peace.
There's a question that troubles us all from the time we are first able to think. And that is, where did we come from? And this question is so compelling that we've invented the science of astronomy. We've discovered these natural laws so that we can learn more about our origin and where we came from. This is what drives us. This is what we want to know. Let's keep looking. Let's keep searching. We have come to be because of the universe's existence. And we are driven to pursue that, to find out where we came from. The joy of discovery. That's what drives us. And these questions are deep within us. Where did we come from? What was before the Big Bang? To us, this is wonderful and charming and compelling. This is what makes us get up and go to work every day. We are, you and I, at least one of the ways that the universe knows itself. It fills me with joy to make discoveries every day of things I had never seen before. To know that we can pursue these answers. Where did we come from?